What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel for today's video where we will be discussing the fate of the Bad Batch. Now, in this video, I will explain why the members of Clone Force 99 do not necessarily have to die when the show does come to an end, but I will then also dive into who could be responsible for their potential demise if and when the time does come for us to say goodbye. Okay, so at this point, we still don't know how many seasons of The Bad Batch we're going to get. It could be 1, could be 2, 3, 4, we just don't know. But there has been a good amount of speculation that whenever the series does come to an end, Clone Force 99 will be killed off because they are obviously not featured in any other Star Wars projects that take place after this time period. So it is reasonable to assume that they are dead by the time those stories rolled around. And considering the interest that the newly established Galactic Empire has in them right now, it does seem unlikely that they will just be forgotten and allowed to roam free throughout the galaxy. But with that being said, I think one could just as easily argue the exact opposite. Every character who once played a role in the Skywalker saga does not have to show up again later on for them to have been alive during any given time period. Ahsoka, for instance, is a prime example of this. Nobody knew what happened to her character after the Clone Wars. There's no mention of her during the original trilogy, and then suddenly there she was in Star Wars Rebels and then in The Mandalorian too. There was no mention of her character in the sequels, and yet there is still a chance she could show up in the time period after those events. The same goes for Ezra Bridger and Sabine and Grogu and so on and so forth. This notion that because certain characters are not mentioned or seen in the movies means they must be dead doesn't really hold that much water. In fact, I actually believe that it is far more interesting and makes for a much more compelling and fascinating story to leave characters alive and allow fans to imagine what happened next. Killing characters off and putting a definitive cap on their story, while effective and even satisfying in some instances, can actually become repetitive and somewhat lazy in my opinion. So imagine for a second that The Bad Batch runs for, let's just say, 3 seasons, and then it ends with maybe 1 or 2 of them being killed off, or even with all of them still alive, and that's it. We don't hear about them for a few years, or maybe we never hear about them again. Is that really so bad, or would that actually make things even more interesting? Just keep in mind, the galaxy is huge. There is absolutely no reason that characters can't survive and thrive without crossing paths with the characters who the other stories focus on. However, with that in mind, let's now acknowledge the possibility of Clone Force 99 being killed off. Contrary to what I have just laid out here regarding death being sort of this cop-out at times, I think the death of the Bad Batch would actually have a profound impact and would make a whole lot of sense if they were to meet their end at the hands of one particular character. And I won't draw this out or keep you guys guessing, that character is Darth Vader. As tragic and heart-wrenching as this scene may be, the death of these specialized clones who are out stirring up trouble and refusing to comply with the Empire at the hands of Darth Vader would not only make sense, but it would add a lot to this tantalizing aura surrounding Darth Vader. This is a character who has long struck fear into audiences. He's a ruthless and terrifying villain. We have heard the stories and we've gotten glimpses on screen here and there of the tremendous power at his disposal. But despite Vader's reputation, we have yet to see this character in action on an open battlefield ever. In fact, the only time we have ever gotten to see him ripping through inferior competition in the way that so many of us imagine was in Rogue One. And that one scene instantly became what was arguably Darth Vader's most epic moment. So now take a second and imagine Darth Vader as he strolls through this battlefield. Blaster fire swarming all around, stormtroopers dropping one after another as the Bad Batch has no choice but to kill their fallen brethren. But as this is going on, we follow Lord Vader as he patiently makes his way toward them. Sent here by his master, who has finally decided enough is enough with this pesky group of clones. The audience knows what's coming. These guys are great warriors, but they cannot stand up to the mighty powers of Darth Vader. Perhaps he kills them all, or perhaps he only gets 1 or 2 of them before somebody else makes a great sacrifice to save the rest. Perhaps this is the moment when Crosshair is reawakened and he gives his life to save his brothers, as well as Omega, whose potential impact on this war has yet to be unveiled. This, of course, is just one way things could go, and I really don't have much of a preference about how they do decide to wrap things things up whenever the time does come. I only hope that whatever direction this story does end up going before its eventual conclusion, we get an ending that resonates with people, whether it be out of imagination on the endless possibilities, or a powerful mix of pain and nostalgia that benefits the overall saga. But that is going to wrap things up for me, so let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. What do you think the eventual fate of the Bad Batch will be, and what would be the most ideal outcome in your opinion? If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like to support the channel, subscribe to the channel for future Star Wars content, and of course, may the Force be with you always.